And the Rome Masters is in full swing now. What's up, tennis fans? Sleepy Picks here. We had some first round matches wrap up. We're going to take a look at some second round picks. Let's take a look at the draw. Here's a look at Musetti's eighth of the draw. First match we're going to talk about is Tabilo against Cerundolo. Tabilo able to get through Carreno Busta 6-2, 6-1. And this was a pretty impressive win. A couple of things to know. Number one, Carreno Busta, he's been playing some solid clay court tennis, a little bit more so on the challenger level than on the ATP level. So you still got to give him some props though for being out there. Now they got called for a rain delay at 5-2, and we know Carreno Busta is a little bit older, and sometimes it's harder to get the body to kind of stop and start and get back going up to that level. And you could really see it when Tabilo came out. He kind of ran through him in that game to get a 6-2 win in the first set. And with the rain, the court was much slower, playing a lot heavier. So we saw a lot of patience from these guys. Did see a little bit of urgency, I think, from Tabilo. I liked what I saw pre-rain delay from him. I thought he was playing the ball pretty aggressive. He was using his lefty spin to kind of take Carreno Busta off the court, challenge that movement of Carreno Busta, and that was working. Obviously, once they came back out, that was a little bit less effective because of how slow and heavy the court was. So Tabilo still able to get through this match 6-2, 6-1, and he looked pretty good. Keep in mind his last three losses have been two to Lehecka, who's playing solid clay court tennis, and one to Fonseca, who's also playing good clay court tennis. Tabilo did have a win in Provence and a challenger there over Zizou Bergs in the final. So he's been looking pretty solid on the clay. He's riding a 5-match winning streak now. Coming into Cerundolo, head-to-head here is 2-1 favoring Cerundolo, but they haven't played since 2022. All 3 matches have been on the clay. There's not really much we can put in here like for weight. And you got Cerundolo 2018. He was able to win 6-2, 6-1 in a ITF. Then Cerundolo able to win in a challenger in 2021, 6-1, 6-1. Then Tabilo able to win in Cordoba, 6-4, 6-1. So all of these have been kind of lopsided affairs. I think we're going to get a pretty competitive match here, and I'd kind of be shocked if we did it. I know Tabilo, it's going to take a lot for Tabilo to kind of get forced out here in this round. And Cerundolo better come with some solid tennis. He's coming in 12-5 right now on the year, 21-11 last year, 21-13 the year before. He's coming off a tough straight set loss to Alexander Blocks, and that was a really frustrating match because at the beginning of the match it really felt like it was Cerundolo's match to lose, and then as we started to get deeper into that first set, it really started to feel like the match had turned in favor of Blocks, and you had Blocks who was able to use his offensive prowess on the clay and his speed to really bother Cerundolo. And we got some key misses from Cerundolo on that forehand side at a few key moments in that first set. And then the frustrations kind of set in with that 6-2 set. Blocks able to kind of open up the wings a little bit as well. Tabilo, on the other hand, is coming in. He's 20-7 this year on the clay, 6-7 last year, 15-10 the year before. So great turnaround for Tabilo. I mean, to go from 6-7 last year to 20-7 this year is very impressive stuff. And like we mentioned before, it's taken a strong clay quarter to take out Tabilo. He usually doesn't roll over to any of these easier opponents like a Carreno Busta. We knew that was going to be a straight set affair there for him. Looking at this matchup, I'll be really interested to see how Tabilo is going to be able to target that backhand of Francisco Cerundolo. We know that his forehand, when it's on, it's a lot tougher to face, and he can really connect with that shot and create a lot of offense off of it, especially on the slower courts here. He's going to have plenty of time to get around and hit that ball, but Tabilo can do the same thing. Plus, I love the way that Tabilo opens up the court with his forehand. He's able to really create a lot of angles and open the court up and hit to his open spaces. And that does kind of, especially against a guy like Carreno Busta, that really challenged the movement But here we got Cerundolo, very experienced on the clay. This is a very tough match for me. I'm leaning towards Tabilo, which is kind of surprising for me. I know how well Cerundolo's been playing. This is going to be a three-setter in my opinion, no matter what way you cut it. Let's take a look at how these guys have done in Rome previously. Let's look at Tabilo. He's actually 4-1 on the clay. Only played in 2024 and made it out to the semifinals, losing in 3 sets to Zverev. Beat Zhang, Khachanov, Djokovic, and Hanfmann in 2024. Impressive stuff there. Let's see Cerundolo. He's 8-4 here. He did play last year, lost to Sinner in the 4th round. 2 years ago, lost to Khachanov in the 3rd round. And in 2023 was his best result. He lost in the quarterfinals to Casper Ruud. Cerundolo able to beat Jerry and Offner last year to get out to that center match. So saying he made the 4th round, I mean, he played 2 lower ranked guys there. So that's not all that impressive. This is such a hard one. I'm tempted to go with Tabilo, but I'm gonna go with Cerundolo here. I haven't seen Tabilo really step up this year. Obviously, we remember he was able to get a couple of a big win against Novak Djokovic last year, but we haven't seen him really notch a top win like a Cerundolo on the clay yet. Let me just make sure that that's right. He beat Carreno Busta, Zizou Bergs, Ethan Quinn, Ignacio Buse, Bautista Agut, and all these guys he should be beating. Ethan Quinn was a three-setter, 7-6 in the 3rd, beat Royer, beat Fuchsovics, beat Taranti, beat Barrios Vera, beat Buse, Taranti, Passaro, and Nava, beat Acosta, and beat Fonseca. The Fonseca match is probably his best win on the clay. That was a 3-setter in Buenos Aires. If he brings his top-notch tennis, this is going to be a very, very tricky match for Cerundolo. But I think Cerundolo is going to be able to get through this match here, and I definitely think after that blocks loss, he's really looking to have a nice run here in Rome. So give me Cerundolo to advance in 3 sets. Next match, we have Casper Ruud taking on Zach Svajda. Zach Svajda able to get through Trungelliti, and this was a really puzzling match for sure. I mean, 6-0 in the first set. It feels like it's just going to be another Trungelliti roll here over Svajda, and we talked a little bit about how this match kind of felt like a get-right position for Trungelliti, having those back-to-back losses to Merida in Madrid, especially the first round match where he had a chance to serve it out, had chances to win that match, and just wasn't able to convert. So obviously you have that hanging over your head. Now you're going to have this match hanging over your head. This is a tough one for the confidence for sure. Because Zach Svajda, I mean, if you guys watch this, he is not moving that great on the clay. He just started to read Trungelliti a lot better. He started to create more opportunities with his serve to kind of push in a serve +1, started to neutralize that Trungelliti return. So there were a lot of things that Svajda did that were able to kind of hide his inability to comfortably move on the clay. And this was enough to get him through to a 3rd set victory, 7-6 in the 3rd. And another disappointing loss for Trungelliti. This has got to be a red flag for us guys, especially I assume he's probably going to play next week, but going into the French Open, he's got to have a little bit of confidence. These last 2 matches for him have been pretty puzzling, both with chances to win, maybe not the match points, but he's close enough in these matches where you got to favor the guy that plays on the clay, and unfortunately that's not happening right now for Trungelliti. Zach Svajda advances, and this is great for Casper Ruud. I think he's going to have a pretty nice, easy match here against Svajda. No head-to-head here for these guys. Svajda comes in. He's 1-3 on the clay this year. Was 1-2 last year. 2-4 the year before. He hasn't had a winning record on the clay since 2019. Casper Ruud, on the other hand, is 5-2 on the clay. 14-5 last year. 24-7 the year before. Ruud coming off a loss to Alexander Blocks in Madrid, and if we remember, that was following that epic Tsitsipas match, and that match really took a lot, I think, physically and emotionally out of Casper Ruud, able to come back from the brink of defeat to defeat Tsitsipas. He just seemed a little bit off in the Alexander Blocks match, and that was unfortunate for him because that was a good opportunity to get out to the semifinals there. Ruud also having that retirement in Monte Carlo against Felix Auger-Aliassime, and we remember that was a leg issue that he had, and it was something that he had said to Felix, kind of snuck up on him in the second set. So obviously, having just played last week, maybe we want to keep an eye out on that. Svajda able to notch his first win over Trungelliti. His previous three losses were to Vallejo in straights, Sakamoto in straights, and Hurkacz in straights. So really nice stuff from Zach Svajda. I'm not going to spend too much more time on this one, guys. This is going to be Casper Ruud in straight sets. It's probably going to be 3-3, but give me Casper to advance in straights. Final match we're going to talk about is Struff against Lehecka. Struff able to get through Komasana today, and this was an impressive win from him. Komasana able to get through the qualifiers, and we picked him because we thought, given the fact that he's played a few matches on the clay in Rome, that this would give him a little bit of a heads up. We didn't think much of Struff against Mickelson. Remember, he lost to him in Madrid. It was 6-2, 6-1, and he barely showed up for that. I mean, that just really, it didn't look like a great match. I honestly think that's what this Lehecka match is going to be like too. But we thought Komasana would be able to kind of push Struff a little bit. The couple things that I really liked about Struff, number one, the forehand was clicking. Komasana found himself on the defense plenty of times, and Struff was able to close into the net and really use his hands and his crisp volleys to take advantage of a defensive Komasana. Number two, Komasana was just missing way too much. I mean, there was a game in the first set. He was up 40-15, throws in two double faults, and then gets broken. And that just can't happen. You got to be able to get that first serve in, kind of challenge a guy like Struff, he returns okay, but he's not gonna really harm you that much on that shot. Struff able to get a little bit of an early break in that second set and then kind of cruise out to a 6-4 win against Komasana. So never really much stress there for Struff. Now he's going to face Lehecka. Head-to-head here is 2-0 for Lehecka. They played in 2023 in the French Open, where Lehecka was able to win 7-5, 1-6, 6-3, 3-6, 6-1 in the first round. A tough 5-set match. And then they played last year in Stuttgart, 6-4, 7-5 win for Lehecka on the grass. Lehecka coming in, he's 5-2 right now on the clay, 5-5 last year, 4-1 the year before. He's coming off a tough straight set loss to Arthur Fils. We talked about how that was a little bit of the revenge factor for Arthur Fils after that 6-2, 6-2 loss in Miami to Lehecka. Lehecka did have a good win over Tabilo in 3 sets, Mickelson in straights, and Musetti in straight sets. Struff, on the other hand, is coming in. He's 2-2 on the clay, 5-8 last year, 15-5 the year before. As we mentioned before, he's coming off that loss against Alex Mickelson in Madrid, 6-2, 6-1. Did have a win over Mueller, 7-6, 6-0, and then was able to beat Komasana today. So he's got a little bit of that clay court experience on the Rome clay under his belt here. I don't think that's going to be enough. Obviously, if he comes out and he serves really well, potentially he could bother Lehecka, but I've been pretty impressed with what we saw from Lehecka in Madrid. Now, obviously, those courts move a lot faster. You have the altitude. The ball's going to move quicker through the air in Madrid, which will favor the Lehecka aggression. But I still think that these courts will help Lehecka at least to find his forehand and cover up that backhand a little bit. So I'm going to go with Lehecka here to win. I think it's going to be straight sets over Struff. And here's Olga Musetti's eighth of the draw with my picks. I think Lehecka and Casper Ruud have two pretty easy matches there to kind of groove themselves into this tournament. Cerundolo is going to come out, and he's going to have to play top tennis to beat Tabilo. So that's going to be a very tricky match for him. And if he's not on his game, I can see Tabilo pulling that upset. But for now, I'm going to take the guy has a good record on the Rome clay, and that's Cerundolo. And I guess like the guy that's been consistently good on the clay, because obviously Tabilo's 4-1 in Rome, which is very solid. But Cerundolo at least has had consistently good results here in Rome. I still like Musetti to get out of this draw. I think this is a huge opportunity for him to potentially jumpstart this clay court season. Hasn't been what he's wanted so far. So this would be a very big opportunity for him to get out to a quarterfinal and potentially face Novak Djokovic. Would be such a fun match to watch that. But I'm picking Musetti to get through this eighth of the draw. Let's move on to the next part of the draw. And here's a look at Djokovic's eighth of the draw. First match we're going to talk about is Khachanov against Shevchenko. And man, this is going to be a match because neither of these guys, in my opinion, have been playing that well on the clay. Shevchenko able to notch a very nice win over Carabelli. And we picked Carabelli to win that match. I thought the clay court prowess of Carabelli was going to bother Shevchenko, but Shevchenko came out and he was really taking it to Carabelli. Obviously missing a little bit to drop that second set, but that first set was all Shevchenko just being aggressive, coming into net, putting shots away, and it paid off. You know, he took advantage of the potentially defensive Carabelli. Surprised me a lot there. 7-6 in the third is a nice win for Shevchenko. Now he takes on Khachanov, and this is a 2-1 head-to-head. Let's go through all three. Shevchenko able to get the first win in their head-to-head in 2023 in Metz, 6-4, 6-4. That's an indoor hardcore quarterfinal. Khachanov able to win in Rome in 2024, 6-4, 6-4 in the second round. Same tournament here. And then Khachanov able to win in Dubai this year, 6-7, 6-2, 6-2 in the first round. In my opinion, Shevchenko's much tougher on the hard courts there, so and especially the fast hard courts. So that result doesn't really surprise me. We have Shevchenko. He's coming in 5-5 on the clay, 19-16 last year, 6-12 the year before. We've mentioned that this is not his preferred surface. I think he would prefer a hard court, but he has played the majority of his matches on the clay, so I think there is a little bit of a comfort there. Prior to his win over Carabelli, Shevchenko was over in Provence playing a challenger, beating Adid in the first round and then losing to Yabing Wu in straight sets. Khachanov, on the other hand, he's coming in at 1-3 on the clay, 9-6 last year, 8-4 the year before. The last time Khachanov has had a losing season on the clay was 2021. He's coming off a tough straight set loss to Jakub Menchik, and we know he had opportunities to win that second set. It was 6-4, 7-6, 13-11 in the breaker. Khachanov had opportunities to win that second set there. Menchik able to tough it out and get through that match in straights, which I think was a very, very solid match from him. And let's also keep in mind, too, that Khachanov did play Carabelli, and he lost 6-3, 6-4. So Shevchenko able to notch a 3-set win, and Khachanov having a loss there. This is going to be a tricky match here, guys. Because honestly, I'm like leaning towards Shevchenko. I like the fact that he's been playing solid clay court tennis. We have a Khachanov with only one win. That win coming against Adam Walton. That's it. That's his only win on the clay this year. A loss to Menchik, a loss to Carabelli, and a loss to Rinderknech. All of those matches in straight sets. He's only played 4 clay court matches. Shevchenko's played 10. This is a really tough match for me to pick here. I think it's going to be a three setter. I think I think Khachanov's head to head is definitely telling, but I gotta go with Shevchenko here, guys. I know that sounds kind of crazy. I think this could potentially be a get right spot for Karen Khachanov here. He's 8-8 in Rome. Last year, lost in a tough three setter to Alcaraz. The year before, lost in straight sets to Tabilo, but it was 7-6, 7-6. Farthest he's made it out is the fourth round here. Let's see how Shevchenko has done here. He's 5-4. Lost in the first round to De Jong last year. Lost to Khachanov, as we spoke about the year before, and then made it out to the third round, losing to Sinner in 3 sets. I'm gonna take Shevchenko, guys. I just can't trust Khachanov right now. I think this is gonna be a three setter. I think it's gonna come down. It's gonna be another one of those, 5-all in the third set, 4-all in the third set. Who are we gonna trust to get this? It's a flip of a coin, honestly. But give me Shevchenko to win in 3 sets. Next match is Bodog van de Zandschulp against Arthur Rinderknech. And Van de Zandschulp able to get a nice win over Mueller, 7-5, 6-3. And this was an impressive match from him. We talked about how we felt like he was going to win this match if he was able to bring his B plus, A minus game against Mueller. Mueller has been playing good clay court tennis this year, but it seems to have dipped a little bit in the European swing. Bodig, it always surprised. He's always so like calm and reserved. You see maybe like a few fist pumps, but there's never like yelling or him kind of celebrating a lot. He's always just like, even if he hits like an amazing shot, it's like, okay, simple fist pump. I kind of like that. He's able to keep his nerve, especially in some of these bigger matches that could potentially help him. Head-to-head here against Rinderknech is 2-1. Bodog winning the first 2 matches. They were both on indoor hard courts. In 2021 in Montpellier, it was a 6-2, 7-5 win for Zandschulp. In 2023 in Basel, it was a 7-6, 6-3 win for Van de Zandschulp. And then in 2024 in Provence, it was a 3-set win for Rinderknech on the clay. Bodog's coming in. He's 5-2 on the clay, 11-10 last year, 16-12 the year before. Has that win over Mueller, and did lose a tough one in Munich to Cerundolo. That was a little bit of a head scratcher, 6-3, 6-0. We thought he was going to be slightly more competitive in that match, but unfortunately he was not. Rinderknech, on the other hand, is coming off a retirement against Kopriva. Remember, we got to keep an eye out for that. I think that was with his it wasn't an illness. It was an actual something bothering him. So he's 3-3 right now on the clay. 9-10 last year. 6-7 the year before. Had a win over Lehecka before he had to retire against Kopriva. Rinderknech has lost Munich and Monte Carlo both to Fonseca. And honestly, guys, you look at Rinderknech's 3 wins. Lehecka in straights, Mickelson in straights, Khachanov in straights. None of those guys has been playing solid clay court tennis. Lehecka maybe a little bit on the challenger level, but not really much to impress us here to say that's a good win for Rinderknech. Now compare that to Van de Zandschulp, and you have Maestrelli, Shevchenko, Dzumhur, Husler, and Mueller. Again, very similar wins there for him, where he hasn't had that standout, impressive win. Played Navoni, lost in 3 sets, had opportunities to win that match. I'm a little bit concerned with the Rinderknech injury. So let me just look this up and see if they have anything noted. Left calf. So that can always be very tricky in tennis. If you have that that calf is bothering you. It's going to limit your movement a lot. Oh, that's right. That was a match where Rinderknech couldn't even move in that second set and somehow was able to win the set, just kind of like underhand serving, slapping shots. So I'm kind of curious. That was only a week ago. I'm curious to see if he's going to be able to come out here and play hit top-notch tennis. I think if he's not, it's going to be Bublik van Zandschulp to win. Not knowing how Rinderknech is feeling, or if that calf is going to be maybe a little bit pesky towards the end of the second set, I'm going to pick Bublik to advance here. So give me Bublik. We'll say 3 sets. And this next match was probably match of the day here. Marigin against Kopriva. Kopriva able to pull off the upset against Marigin. 6-3, 6-3. The first set was all Kopriva. He was playing extremely well. He's moving well on the clay. Marigin himself, though, he can move very well for a guy his size. He can use his power, but Kopriva's defense was just elite today. He was able to get on top of the ball, too, and play that forehand, play that big backhand, hitting through Marigin. The second set, much more competitive with a back and forth. Marigin able to go up a break a couple of times, and Kopriva able to fight back and get the break immediately back. So that's pretty important, not to face pressure there for Kopriva. I really liked what I saw from Marigin. He was hitting his shots. He was able to step in, hitting the serve. The only thing was Kopriva just coming up with shot after shot, getting a lot of balls back. How many times did we see Kopriva's on the run? You got Marigin coming up to net and Kopriva's passing him. And I like the fact that Marigin had control of a lot of these points until he didn't, until Kopriva was able to show off his defense and move that defense back into offense quickly for him. So an impressive match from Kopriva there. And this is a guy that you watch him play and you're like, he is clearly very confident on the clay. He believes in his game on the clay. And it's a very unorthodox style too. So it does bother people, I think, the way he hits as well. Now he goes up against Ugo Humbert. It's no head-to-head for these guys here. We have Humbert's coming in. He's 1-2 on the clay, 2-5 last year, 5-7 the year before. He was 13-5 in 2023, which was the last time he had a winning record. Kopriva, on the other hand, has never had a losing record on the clay. 12-8 this year, 25-13 last year, 21-16 the year before. Coming off that Marigin win, he did have a tough match against Jodar in Madrid. 7-5, where first set was a lot of back and forth there. Jodar not really able to open his game up, but then once he got up a break in that second set, he was up a set, up a break, was able to open the game up, played a little bit more confidently, and was able to really hit through Kopriva. But let's not forget, Kopriva able to get a win against Zhang and Rublev and Rinderknech to get to that Jodar match. Humbert, on the other hand, is coming off a tough straight set loss to Terence Ottmann, 7-6, 7-6. And we know Terence Ottmann has been playing some pretty good clay court tennis. He likes the way the clay allows him to move around and rip that forehand. Humbert did play Yannick Sinner in Monte Carlo, losing 6-3, 6-0, and had a nice win over Kwame, 6-3, 7-5. Those are the only 3 matches he's played. I mean, you got Kopriva, who's got 20 matches under his belt, and Humbert, who's only got 3. Guys, I can't believe I'm doing this again as my third pick, and honestly, depending on how Prismic looks against Vukic, I might pick him over Novak too, but I'm picking Kopriva to win this match. No head-to-head for these guys. This is going to be their first time seeing each other. I just don't think Humbert is a very comfortable player on the clays, and I know Kopriva has been playing some solid tennis, and just watching today, they played a very competitive second set, and Kopriva able to prevail just because of his confidence in his game on this surface. So give me Kopriva to advance. I'm going to say it's going to be straight set. Here's look at Djokovic's eighth of the draw. And obviously, guys, if this is what it's going to look like, Djokovic only has to get through Prismic, I think. I think he would handle Kopriva pretty handily. And then Zandschulp or Shevchenko would be a nice round of 16 match to kind of get him grooved. I mean, keep in mind, Novak Djokovic has won so many Masters Series. I don't think he really cares about winning this Master Series or, making a deep run. I think he just wants to get a few clay court matches under his belt so that he's prepared to play in the French Open, and that's the one that matters. He wants to see if he can get one more Grand Slam in his belt. So we'll see how that goes. But right now, I'm leaning towards Djokovic to get out of this eighth and make the quarterfinal. Let's move on to the next part of the draw. Here's look at de Minaur's eighth of the draw. First match we're going to talk about is de Minaur against Arnaldi. Arnaldi able to get through Minaur, and this is probably Minaur's best match since he's come back. It's good to see him improving a little bit, and I loved what I saw from Minaur. The redirection of the ball I thought looked really good. The biggest difference to me was just that confidence that Arnaldi had from winning the Cagliari Challenger last week. You could tell he was really trusting his game. He was playing a lot of offense, able to defend the backhand side pretty well. Just solid tennis from Arnaldi to get through there. He was the whole third set. He's knocking on the door to get that break. Finally gets it to go up 4-2, I think it was. And that basically was it for Minaur. But again, a nice step forward for Minaur on his way coming back here. Looked pretty good, and it looked much better than the destruction that happened with him against Jodar. Now Arnaldi's going to play de Minaur, and head-to-head here is 1-0 for these guys. They played in 2024 in the Australian Open. It was a 6-3, 6-0, 6-3 win for Alex de Minaur. Obviously on the clay, it's going to be a little bit different. We have Arnaldi, who's played the majority of the matches of his career on the clay. He's 7-5 coming in here, 7-6 last year, 10-9 the year before. But as we mentioned, 5 of those 7 wins coming in that Cagliari Challenger. So realistically, he was 1-5 before you count the 6 wins that he just had. He's definitely red hot. He's got a lot of momentum. But we have to kind of take a little bit of that with a grain of salt, considering that it's a challenger and then a win over a Minaur Claire who just came back from injury. De Minaur, on the other hand, he's 3-3 on the clay, 10-5 last year, 10-5 the year before. Had a tough second-round loss to Jodar, 6-3, 6-1, which was just a little bit too much. I mean, I loved, one of the announcers spoke about that match, and they said that it really looked like Jodar was hitting 5 times faster, 5 times harder than de Minaur, and that was his rally ball. That just really sends a message. That guy, Jodar, is playing such good tennis, and we'll talk about him in a second. He's our next match up here. De Minaur hasn't been having the greatest of clay court seasons. Able to come out in Monte Carlo, beat Nori, beat Blocks, who's having a pretty good clay court season. Lost in a 3-setter to Vacero. Goes over to Barcelona, beats Offner, loses to Medjedovic, who ended up making, I believe it was the semifinal where he lost to Rublev, and then losing to Jodar in Madrid. That was it. Jodar going out to the quarterfinals there. And this, admittedly so, is not de Minaur's favorite surface, but I do think he's going to be able to get through Arnaldi here. I'd be shocked if Arnaldi was able to pull the upset. So I'm going to go de Minaur to advance here. I think it's going to be straight sets. I think we got to take into account Arnaldi's played about, this will be his 7th match in about 8 or 9 days. So the body's got to be feeling it right now for Arnaldi. He is playing with a ton of confidence, but when you go and to play a guy like de Minaur, you want to make sure that your body's 100% ready to go. I think de Minaur is going to be able to tear him apart. So give me de Minaur to advance in straights. Next match is Borges against Jodar. Borges able to get through De Jong 6-3, 6-0, and I wasn't able to get eyes on that match, but we did predict that one. I thought it might have been a little bit closer. De Jong playing decent tennis. Remember, he did push Jodar last year, and last week in Madrid, and we talked about how Jodar might be able to get that rematch with him, but not to be here. Borges comes out beating De Jong 6-3, 6-0. Head to head here for Borges and Jodar is 0-0. They have not played each other. We have Hadar's coming in. He's 12-2 on the clay this year, 3-1 last year, 6-4 the year before. He's coming off a tough straight set loss to Sinner in Madrid, 6-2, 7-6. And unfortunately, that tiebreak was 7-0. And, just a few too many errors from Jodar, and then Sinner, obviously, you give Sinner a mini break and a breaker, he's going to take full advantage of that. Borges, on the other hand, he's coming in, he's 4-5 on the clay, 9-11 last year, 13-7 the year before, coming off that win over De Jong in Rome, but he did have a tough 3-set loss to Arnaldi and Cagliari. Remember, Arnaldi able to go and win that match, go and win that tournament. I'm going to pick Jodar here. I'm not going to think too much about it. We know Borges' game. He's not the type of guy to play a lot of big offense, and that to me is a type of player that can frustrate a guy like Jodar. I think Borges' game is going to play right into Jodar, where he's going to be able to connect with a lot of his forehands. He's going to be able to rope a lot of these shots. Let's also keep in mind, it did just rain today. The courts might be a little bit damp. The weather might be a little bit damp, so maybe the ball's going to be moving a little bit slower. That could favor Borges a little bit, but I just can't see things like that being enough for us to pick Borges over Jodar. Rafa Jodar, 12-2. His only two losses coming to Arthur Fils, who until his loss to Jannik Sinner was undefeated on the clay, and Jannik Sinner, who is undefeated on the clay. So it's taken a very strong opponent to beat Jodar, and I don't think Borges is going to be able to do that with his game style. So give me Jodar to advance in straight sets. Next match is Tien against Dzumhur. Dzumhur able to get through Mannarino 6-4, 6-0, and the beginning of that first set, it was very similar. It reminded me a lot of the Buse first set, where Dzumhur obviously favored very heavily there, but you get into it and Mannarino's just throwing in all these junk shots. It's so hard for Dzumhur to get a rhythm against these slices, these short balls, the drop shots, the redrops. Mannarino playing pretty well, and you could tell he was frustrating Dzumhur a little bit. Dzumhur able to get an early break, but then Mannarino breaks right back, and that kind of set the tone. I felt like Dzumhur, once he got his head on and realized, if I just rally deep with this guy, I don't need to play into his game. I just need to play my game. And once he realized that, I felt like Dzumhur was able to take off and win that match pretty easily. And obviously going up a set and then going up a break, you're able to open your game up a little bit more. I felt like Dzumhur, once he was able to start to hit a little bit behind Mannarino, that really helped him. Just challenging that movement on the clay. We know Mannarino doesn't prefer this surface, and the movement can be a little bit challenged on the clay. So Dzumhur able to find some success doing that, and he advances 6-4, 6-0. He's going to take on Tien here, and Tien not having the greatest of clay court seasons. He's coming in 1-2 right now on the clay. His one win over Baez, a staple on the Challengers Tour. And then Tien's two losses, one to Burchaga, who made it out to the finals of Houston, and one to Vallejo in Madrid. Tien was 3-7 last year, 0-1 the year before. He has never had a winning record on the clay, so that's important to note there. Has only been playing since 2022, but still important to note that, this is a guy that's 10-5 this year on the hard courts, only 1-2 on the clay. Dzumhur, on the other hand, is coming in. He's 6-8 on the clay, 21-16 last year, 28-7 the year before. Has that nice win over Mannarino, but did have a tricky loss to Emilio Nava and Cagliari. A little bit of a head scratcher there. He had to retire. And then Dzumhur did beat Bellucci in Madrid and lost to Griekspoor, which was a little bit surprising. I thought that match was going to be a little bit more competitive, but Griekspoor played pretty well, and the style of Dzumhur, Griekspoor was able to really dictate a lot more against a guy like Dzumhur. I'm going to pick Lerner Tien here, guys. I feel like I'm going to regret that. But at some point, he's got to get something going on the clay. I don't think his game is that bad. Obviously, yes, he prefers the fast indoor surfaces, but I don't think his game is that bad where it's not going to fit on the clay. I think he can really develop his game to be a tough clay court threat. Maybe it starts here, but I just think Tien is on a different level from Dzumhur, even if it's on his least favorite surface and Dzumhur's favorite surface. I'm going to pick Tien. Give me Lerner Tien to advance in 3 sets. Next match is Baez against Bublik. Baez able to get through a tough match against Jenson Brooksby. And just like we said, Brooksby has some of those crazy shots that were bothering Baez a little bit. He's got that fake out, double-handed drop shot that he was able to use a little bit against Baez. Baez quick enough to get to the ball there. But for me, guys, neither of these guys really impressed me. I felt like Baez should have been winning this match a lot easier, but just the unforced errors we saw from Sebi Baez really made it hard for him to play competitively and then to pull away from Brooksby. He continued to let Brooksby back in, and the tiebreak was a microcosm of the entire match. Baez up 6-3 in the breaker and has to hang on to win 10-8. I mean, that says a lot. And honestly, guys, like a lot of those shots, yes, Brooksby hit a couple of really solid shots, but for me, most of it was on Baez with the misses. You just can't do that when you're playing a guy like Bublik. Head-to-head against Bublik is 1-0 favoring Bublik. They met in 2025 in Miami, where Bublik was able to win 6-3, 6-4 in the first round over Baez. Bublik's coming in. He's 2-3 on the clay, 23-6 last year, 5-6 the year before that. Had a very strong showing on the clay courts last year, but has not been able to replicate that success here so far. Bublik's coming off a tough straight set loss to Tsitsipas in Madrid, and we remember how well Tsitsipas was able to serve in Madrid. Keep in mind, Bublik is on a 3-match losing streak ever since losing to Carlos Alcaraz in Monte Carlo 6-3, 6-0. That was their first meeting, and it was just an absolute drubbing by Alcaraz. Bublik then goes over to Munich and loses to Molchan, who was a tricky lefty, tricky clay quarter, kind of grinded Bublik down a little bit. But again, Bublik seemed a little bit disinterested in that match. And then that loss to Tsitsipas. Let's take a look at Baez, who's coming in. He's 7-7 on the clay, 17-14 last year, 26-11 the year before. Coming off that good win against Jenson Brooksby. Did have a tricky loss to Galbis in Madrid, and this was a little bit of a head scratcher, seeing as Baez was able to beat Galbis in Bucharest about a month ago, 6-3, 6-1, and Galbis able to turn that around to a 7-5, 6-1 win. Very impressive stuff from Galbis. Looking at this matchup, guys, I'm gonna pick Bublik here. I think he's in like the Musetti territory where he really has to win a few rounds here to kind of get the confidence going again. I don't think if Bublik loses to Baez in the first round here, he should play one of those tune-up tournaments the week before. I know sometimes it's not smart because it wears the body down a lot, but I just think Bublik needs a couple of more wins under his belt and a little bit more confidence. You can't be going into the French Open at 2-4 as your record, especially when you were 23-6 the year before. I'm picking Bublik to advance here over Baez. I think it's going to be straight sets. I think Bublik's going to be looking to get right here. He's got a good opportunity to potentially come out and maybe bother Zverev. So give me Bublik to advance in straights. And here's a look at de Minaur's eighth of the draw. Surprisingly enough, I have all 4 seeds picked to advance here. The one seed that I could see potentially losing would be Tien. We haven't seen a lot of great things from him on the clay this year, so I could see him losing to Dzumhur, who's a pretty seasoned veteran on the clay. I'm still sticking with Jodar to come out of this. I do wonder about the Jodar body, if it's going to be ready to go here, and how much energy he wants to expend here. Obviously, he's going to be looking to get that ranking up maybe a little bit more and guarantee himself having a seed in the French Open. But you got to be a little bit cautious because you don't want the body to break down too much. Jodar has played a lot of tennis these last few weeks. So it will be interesting to see how far he makes it. I'm going to pick him to get out to the quarterfinal and play Zverev. Let's move on to the final part of the draw. And here's a look at Zverev's eighth of the draw. First match we're going to look at is Paul against Vukic. And Vukic getting a nice win, 6-3, 5-7, 6-0 against Kipson. And I feel like this was just another disappointing match from Kipson where he had chances there, winning the second set, but had some chances in the first set. Maybe he could have made it a straight set match. Vukic just being a little bit too strong here. Vukic is coming in. We talked about his record. He was 0-5 on the clay. I didn't think he was going to be able to win a match here, but he does. So he's 1-5 right now on the clay, 4-8 last year, 5-9 the year before. His last winning record was back in 2023 on the clay. Tommy Paul, on the other hand, is 5-1 on the clay, 12-4 last year, 10-4 the year before. Tommy Paul ran into a tough Toronto, and I think he's going to be ready to go here. I think he's looking to get a few more clay court matches under his belt, and this draw might be a little bit tricky for him. Obviously, going up against Zverev would be an extremely tough match, but Vukic is a nice match for Tommy Paul to get a little bit used to the courts and everything. Obviously, Toronto was a very tricky match. You have to come out and play a clay quarter immediately. Vukic himself, not really a clay quarter, prefers the hard court. So I'm going to pick Tommy Paul to advance here in straight sets. Next match is Darderi against Hanfmann, and we're finally getting that match. Remember, I talked to you guys about this in Marrakesh. I thought this was going to be one of the top-notch matches for us. Darderi getting that tough win over Hanfmann in the Chile Open, 7-6, 7-5 to win the finals. Really played well there, and I was looking for a potential Hanfmann revenge factor there. Now can we look for it here? Potentially. Darderi has not lost a set to Hanfmann on the clay. He was able to win in Cordoba in 2023, 6-3, 6-4. Then he won again in Cordoba in 2024, 7-6, 6-1. Won in Chile this year, 7-6, 7-5 in the finals, and then got the walkover in Marrakesh a couple of weeks ago. Darderi's coming in. He's 10-6 on the clay, 30-11 last year, 34-15 the year before. He just has not played that well on the clay, at least up to our expectations of what we're used to seeing from Luciano Darderi. He hasn't found that confidence and trust in the clay just yet. Darderi coming off a tough loss to Cerundolo, 6-2, 6-3. Obviously, we thought that match was going to be a little bit more competitive than what we saw, but given the fact that Darderi just hasn't been playing the best of tennis, it doesn't surprise me that Cerundolo was able to get through that match with ease. Hanfmann, on the other hand, he's coming in at 9-4, 17-12 last year, 12-15 the year before, having that nice 6-7, 7-6, 6-2 win over Hukic in the first round. Hanfmann also coming off a loss to Cerundolo in the second round, 6-1, 7-5. I'm going to pick Darderi here, guys, and I feel like I'm gonna be eating my words. I think I'm gonna be regretting it. Hanfmann, I think, is gonna be looking for the revenge on this match, but I gotta go with Darderi. I feel like there's something about, he's got to get back on track. He's 10-6 on the clay though, so when we say back on track, he's having a great season. The problem is you have second round loss in Munich, first round loss in Monte Carlo, semifinal loss in Marrakesh, which he won last year. Probably expected to repeat. He lost to Trungelliti, who was outside the top 100, and then a third round loss to Cerundolo in Madrid. I think he's going to be looking to maybe make a run here. So give me Darderi to advance in 3 sets. Last match, we have Altmaier against Zverev, and Altmaier getting a nice win over Zhang. That concerned me when Altmaier dropped that first set. You could tell he was getting very frustrated, was slamming the racket, I believe, and he was able to come back. I mean, he was down a set, and Zhang serving for the match in the second set, and Altmaier still able to come back and win this match. That just shows you the resilience that he has and the confidence coming from a guy that knows what he can and can't do on the clay, trusts his game on the clay. I thought this was a pretty good performance from Altmaier. I love that backhand. He's always able to play it very aggressively. He's able to step in and take some time away as well from some of these shots. Now he plays Zverev. Head-to-head is 3-1 for Alexander Zverev. They only played once on the clay last year in Munich, a 6-3, 6-2 win for Zverev. Let's go through all of these matches. In 2022, Zverev was able to beat Altmaier in the first round of the Australian Open 7-6, 6-1, 7-6. In 2023, Zverev was able to beat Altmaier in the second round of the U.S. Open 7-6, 3-6, 6-4, 6-3. And then in 2024, Altmaier exacts his revenge in Acapulco against Zverev. Remember, those courts are a little bit different. I'm trying to remember if they were fast. I think they were, but now I can't remember. And then Zverev able to get a win in Munich, 6-3, 6-2 over Altmaier in the second round last year. This could be a tricky match, but you just always have to trust a little bit with Zverev against the lower tier guys. Zverev always wins these matches. Altmaier's coming in. He's 8-7 on the clay, 13-8 last year, 19-20 the year before. Zverev is 11-3 on the clay this year, 18-7 last year, 23-6 the year before. Zverev coming off that final appearance against Sinner, where he really didn't have much to offer to challenge Jannik Sinner. And we did talk a little bit about maybe the Zverev back was bothering him. That has yet to be seen. Remember his match against Ottman, he struggled with the back, didn't even sit down on the changeovers because didn't want the back to get too tight. I don't think he's giving us the full story about how it is, so that might be something to keep an eye on here if Zverev comes out and is struggling to hit his serves with his back. Altmaier, on the other hand, is 8-7 on the clay, 13-8 last year, 19-20 the year before. Had that nice 3-set win over Zhang, and hasn't had a great run since Bucharest. Was able to win the Naples Challenger, make the finals in the Naples Challenger, losing to Medjedovic, and then makes it out to the quarterfinals of Bucharest, playing Marijan. And this was a tricky match because he had to play 2 matches in the same day, beat Prismic in 3 tough sets. I believe that was a 3-hour long match, and then lost to Marijan 6-2, 7-6. I was expecting a little bit more from Altmaier. He comes in against Mahach, goes 3 sets, then goes into Munich, beats Cilic, which I think is a very nice win, but it shows you how the confidence that Altmaier has on the clay. And then Altmaier loses to Molchan. And just last week in Madrid, he lost to Juan Manuel Cerundolo. And we know that that game of Cerundolo frustrates a ton of guys. And Altmaier was leading. I believe he was up a break in the first set and just let it kind of slip away with that consistent style of Juan Manuel Cerundolo. I'm going to take Zverev here. I think one set's going to be close. Maybe we see a 7-5 or a 6-4. And then I think the other set's going to be like 6-2 or 6-1 for Zverev. We'll have to see how that back is doing. So definitely keep an eye on that when you watch his match against Altmaier. But give me Zverev to advance in straight sets. And here's a look at Zverev's eighth of the draw. And as I mentioned before, I really do like Zverev to come through here. If he's able to be healthy, I see another potential round of 32 match against Blocks, and Zverev just proved that he is just a higher level than Blocks. Really exposed the weaknesses of Alexander Blocks in Madrid. So I'm going to pick Zverev to come out of this quarter here. Here's a look at our first round records. A 4-5 day for the Pamplemousse. Not too great, but I know the Pamplemousse will do much better tomorrow, so we'll have to wait to see how he does. And an 8-5 day for me. Hopefully I can keep that trend going in the rest of the first round picks. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share your picks in the comments. Share the video. We will have a video out every single night recapping the matches that happened that day and taking a look at the picks for the future rounds. We also have a video out for the French Open preview, so definitely check that out to keep up on everything tennis. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.